There.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to third day of AICT adult-sponsored online FDP. Today's first session is about P2P trading in microgrids. The speaker of this session is Dr. M.B. Selvan, who is presently working as Associate Professor in Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, NIT Trichy. He is graduated from Manonmaniam Sundaranar University in Electrical and Electronics Engineering, mastered in Power Systems from Regional Engineering College, and doctorate in Computer Applications in Power System from IIT Madras. He is interested in grid interaction of electric vehicles in smart grid, demand response and P2P energy transaction in smart grid, distributed generation and microgrid. He is handling various sponsored and funded research projects and has grabbed a couple of patents. Now I welcome Dr. M.P. Selvan to begin the session.
You need to unmute, I think. You're- Yeah.
Yeah, I am doing the same mistake.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Amina, and good morning to all the participants. Yeah, hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yeah. Screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, the topic of today's discussion is microgrids and peer-to-peer energy transaction in smart grid scenario. I included the word smart grid because peer-to-peer energy transaction is possible only if smart grid is realized. Otherwise, we cannot talk about peer-to-peer energy transaction. So I included the word peer-to-peer energy transaction in smart grid. Hope all of you might have understood a lot of concepts related to the establishment of smart grid, because we have a well structured, well operated power system existing in many countries across the world as well as in India, which is very well proved through the operation, day-to-day operation of our system. I think all of you know this. We have 5 different regional grids operated in synchronism with each other, and this happened over a long years. Initially 5 regional grids were established, then later on national grid started working with the help of HVDC interregional links. Then we were very successful in establishing regional synchronized grid with the help of EHVAC. And in 2013, Power Grid proved that India can act as a single synchronous grid. It is one of the largest synchronized grid in the world. This happened during 2013, exactly on December 31st. Even in the midnight, they could finish this job, and India became one nation, one grid, and one frequency. So when I say it is one nation, one grid, it is synchronized with the help of AC links, HVAC links, 765 kV transmission links. So we are very successful in the operation of our transmission sector. And in addition to that, not only the infrastructure, in the operation wise, across the world, all the countries moved from vertically integrated infrastructure to deregulated or restructured power system. Yes, India is also successful in that. We moved from vertically integrated utility to restructured utility. where the generation is no longer utilities responsibility. The generation is no longer regulated. There may be a participation from private power producers who can compete with the central and state utilities in order to supply power to the grid. So when it happens, all of you know that our electrical grid is a peculiar system. Whenever you inject power, at the same time we have to utilize the power. Where we are injecting power in a common pool called the transmission network. So the transmission network remains utility only. You look at this, the transmission network is still the responsibility of the utility. So whether the transmission network allows or permits the power from private party, it should be legally approved. So in Electricity Act, there is a separate clause for open access of transmission network. Then after that, we have distribution, power distribution. Still we have state utilities doing the distribution. In a few states, private distributors were introduced, and customers are provided with options to choose the distributors. Right? Customers are provided with option to choose distributors. Don't be carried away with this word that choose generation suppliers by the customers. Here the customers, it means even the distributors. They can choose their power suppliers from the main grid. So when we establish this, generation can be done by any different parties. Transmission sector is given as a system which is open for anyone. This should be legalized. That happened in 2003, Electricity Act. Transmission become open access. In generation and distribution, privatization is allowed. But though in distribution it is not so popular, in generation it is happening. And all the state electricity boards are advised to unbundle their operation, which gave birth to many companies, many corporations such as Transco, Genco, and Disco. I'm not sure that all the states follow the same naming. To my knowledge, say Tamil Nadu, we follow TANGEDCO. That is a corporation which takes care of generation and distribution together. So TANGEDCO. And we have TANTRANSCO separately. If we go to Andhra Pradesh, they have unbundled very clearly. Genco, Transco, Disco, 3 companies. Similarly, this happens in several states, unbundling. Why do you need to unbundle? You need to introduce competition even in the state level. Private power producers should be able to participate, and there is a provision in Electricity Act that distribution also can be privatized. So when we say privatized, there are so many parties coming into picture which introduces a competition in the network operation or a competition in the energy production and energy sale. The competition should be very healthy. All the all the players who involved in the operation of system should get benefit out of that. That is a healthy participation or healthy competition. And secondly, as the competition become healthy, you need to have some third party to take care of the technical happenings, because now we have separated the energy generation from energy transmission. So when it is separated, according to the physics of electrical energy, we have to take care of the security of the system. When I say security of the system, nothing should get overloaded and we should not face any over voltage or under voltage issues in the system when so many power transaction happens in the open access to transmission network. So we need several operators, or I can say that stakeholders in the system. We will see that in Indian power sector we have several players. As I said, central and state owned GENCOs. We have independent power producers, that is private operators, and captive power plants. Then we have a central transmission system which is open access, state transmission unit, and then DISCOMs, distribution companies, and consumers. This is completely unbundled system. So when the system is unbundled, there should be a third party, like a say project manager. He has to coordinate with the different units of that project. There is no lead, okay, it's a management. So we have two people, two players. One is the system operator and another one is a market operator. System operator takes care of the technical issues happening in the system. Market operator takes care of the energy transaction. Because when I say there is a competition, we have to establish a market. In the market, everyone can sell. State-owned GENCO, central GENCO, and the IPP. They can sell power. So you need a market operator to match the power production or power sale with the demand. And this has been successfully established in the wholesale market. That means at the high voltage transmission level. There, an individual consumer will not participate and buy power, because the word I said, wholesale market. You compare exactly with the market of any other commodity. An individual consumer will not go to the wholesale market and purchase. If you want to buy in bulk, then you can go to the wholesale market. Otherwise, even the wholesale market will not sell quantities in a few numbers. If you want to purchase 10 number of soaps, you cannot go to wholesale market and buy. But if you want to buy 1,000 soap, you can approach a wholesale market and get. Same thing is here. So individual consumer, say a residential consumer or a small commercial consumer, will not approach the wholesale market and buy. Wholesale market, only the bulk consumers can participate. So according to this scenario, the wholesale market, the customers are the DISCOs, state DISCOs. It may be a government-owned DISCO like TANGEDCO or DISCO in AP DISCO. In addition to that, a private distribution companies can also purchase power from wholesale markets. Okay, so what is the market established in Indian scenario is a wholesale market. where the bulk consumers can participate. Even an individual consumer can participate to buy power if he is purchasing a bulk power in terms of 100 megawatts, say, for example, continuously he needs, then he can directly trade in the power market. But if you come locally below the distribution level in terms of our voltage level, come less than 33 kV, we have small consumers, they cannot directly participate in wholesale market. And do we need to establish a market at the DISCOM level? Yes, there will be a need or there will be a requirement if you have multiple DISCOMs. Even there are multiple DISCOMs of 1, 2, 3. You need not establish a market. Okay, there are 3 options for the customers. Let them choose. That is what happening right now, even in the distribution sector. A few cities in India have multiple multiple DISCOMs. Individual consumer can choose their distributors and they can pay the monthly electricity bill. So when you have more than one distributor, will you have multiple distribution network? No, that is not a wise idea. Right? That is not a wise idea. You have to use an existing network and you should give option for the customers to choose the distributor. So all the distributor will use the same infrastructure, distribution infrastructure. So what we are borrowing the idea from the transmission sector. Transmission is open access. So now we have to make the distribution network also be in the open access situation. Any distributor can purchase power from the wholesale market and distribute to their consumers. Then there will be another requirement. Who will take care of the technical part of this? Similar to POSOCO, I need another party called as Distribution System Manager. POSOCO does energy manager, the job of energy management at the high voltage level. At the low voltage level, we need a distribution system manager or a distribution management system, DMS. Of course, this everything will be established with the help of smart grid technologies. Okay, so I am giving you a picture of the wholesale market, and that is what we are trying to borrow to our distribution network, and in that we are going to try with our peer-to-peer energy trading. In order to have a good background, I am starting from this. Okay, and our grid is growing very well. As I said, our demand by 2030 will be around 500 gigawatt, and our generation sector is also growing. In this picture, you can see the growth of renewable energy. For the past few years, I have shown here the numerical value. 19, 20, 21, you can see the growth. And the plot shows from 2002, that is before approximately 20 years before, we were generating only 3.5 gigawatt. Now we are reaching 100 gigawatt, right? And it is expected to reach 250 gigawatt by 2030. The grid requirement is going to be around 500 gigawatt, and we will be having 50% of the grid requirement from renewable. So when I say 50% of requirement from renewable, it is not only the large power plants. It is not only the large power plants like a big solar park or a big wind farm. we will be having residential level power generation. In short, we can call it as in-house power generation. That is also expected. Right now, it is slowly increasing. There are several plans provided by the state government as well as central government. You can operate the solar power plant installed by your own. We can use the energy for our own use, and an additional amount of additional power can be sold. One scheme which is very popular in Tamil Nadu, net metering scheme. Or you can provide the space alone. Somebody else will install PV and they can sell PV power to you at a less price compared to the grid price, and some rent for the space what you are providing. They can generate more power than the requirement of you and can be sold to others or sold to the grid. The space you are providing, but you are not investing on the technology. Somebody else will do that and they can sell power to grid as well as to you. There are several plans which are available in the establishment of renewable, and we can go that. So including all these schemes, it is estimated that by 2030 we should reach around 250 gigawatt installation. But everything is okay, all these plans are okay, but our present grid is like this. Hope you can understand this picture, what I am trying to convey. I am trying to convey that our transmission network is very transparent and the distribution system is like a black box. Transmission network is very clear. At each and every point, measurements are taken in real time and transmitted to a control center for monitoring as well as control purpose. But in the distribution network, there is no real-time monitoring and real-time control established in an automated manner. That's why I have shown this as a black box. The aim of smart grid is to make this black box into a transparent box similar to the transmission network. Okay. This is what I used to say to my students, that smart grid concepts are not new even to Indian power system. We are just trying to utilize the achievements of transmission network into our distribution system. But only thing, the behavior of the distribution system, nature of the distribution system is completely different from transmission network. So we cannot exactly copy and paste here. We can copy, but before pasting, we should do some editing. Right. So what is the editing we need to do? For that, we are depending on other technologies, ICT. We are borrowing the information technology and communication technology advancements in order to edit the technological advancements copied from transmission network and paste in the distribution network to make this black box into a transparent box. Okay, now we will see the distribution network and what is the changes happening in the distribution network inside of the black box. Say our distribution network is mostly operated in radial. Though it is designed to cater the needs of meshed system, we will have features or infrastructure to make a mesh. But most of the time, it is operated in a radial structure in order to have a simple protection schemes. That is the main idea, to have the system in a radial. Otherwise, we need to complicate the protection systems. Why should we spend more on protection system in the distribution network? Because it is least bothered. Okay, if you look at this, distribution network is least bothered. If there is any problem, only a small consumers will get disturbed, and it is not so critical. You can take an ample amount of time to rectify the fault. That's why a simple protection scheme is sufficient. But if you go to the transmission network, if there is any problem, you will lose power for a huge amount of consumers. Large number of consumers will get affected, which is very critical. So you need a very sophisticated protection system. If you look at the distribution network, they will have a simple overground protection. You will have fuse at many places. Every distribution transformer has only the fuse. And the distribution substation, you may have relays and circuit breakers. And we have manually operated disconnect switches. You might have seen near the DT, distribution transformer, we have manually operated disconnect switches. This is what the scenario, right? And this distribution network is fed at only one point. And by looking at the picture, we can say the real and reactive power flow will be from high voltage side low voltage, or there is no alternate path. System is considered to be passive because system does not have any active elements other than the substation which is feeding the network. Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
Okay, thank you. And slowly this radial distribution network is changing to an active network by introducing distributed energy sources like micro turbines, fuel cell, solar cell, biomass, wind, energy storage like battery, flywheel, and ultra capacitor. And now nobody uses distributed generation as the word. Initially, we introduced with distributed generation because we concentrated on this kind of solar cell, wind, biomass, and integrated in the distribution network, and it is given the name distributed generation. There are so many reasons for giving the name distributed generation. It is connected in the distribution network, capacities distributed, geographically it is distributed, so many things. Okay. But now everyone uses the word DES or DER, distributed energy resources. Recently you go through the papers, you never see the word DG, distributed generation. Everyone uses the word DER, distributed energy resources, because now the storage, the involvement of energy storage also plays very critical role. So including the distributed generator and distributed storage, we formed a common name called distributed energy resources. Okay. So you can have a storage alone. You store it and you can release whenever there is a need of energy. That is the concept. You can have storage alone. So again, this concept comes from the transmission network. Okay, if you look at many countries across the world, in order to smoothen the power output from large wind farms, they are trying to establish energy storage in a grid level, battery energy storage system at the grid level. So why don't we establish same thing, battery energy storage, at the distribution level also? Here also we are having fluctuating energy sources. Suppose if I install solar power at my home, knowingly or unknowingly, we are having battery storage. And grid is supporting, even the grid fails, I can get power from the battery if solar is not there, right? So knowingly or unknowingly, we are using this energy storages. But the concept is, even without solar, you can have energy storage, store the energy from the grid or from the renewable, and later you can release. If there is a possibility, there is a technology which permits you to inject power from this kind of storage into the grid, then you will be paid for that. So distributed energy resources are coming into picture, and the network is becoming slowly active. We are having, I'm sorry, I have indicated only DG here. Actually, we should write this as DER, distributed energy resource. 1, distributed energy resource. 2, it can be a generation or it can be an energy storage. So when that happens, this kind of embedded sources available in the system, the power flow can be in a reverse direction also. You cannot say that always power is going to flow in only one direction. Power flow direction in a branch may reverse. It depends upon power generation, the load available at that particular node, and if you have energy storage, the level of storage what you have, right? What I meant to say is, you think this branch 14, 15, if there is no embedded generation, I can say that always power flows from 14 to 15. There is no chance for the power reversal. But when I have a distributed resource at node 15, I can never say that power will flow only from 14 to 15. There is a possibility for the power flow from 14 to 15 or 15 to 14. It depends on the generation at 15, load at 15, and storage at 15. Right? So power reversal may happen in the distribution network, which is depending on all these conditions, which are not properly monitored at right now. These distributed generators have many applications: standby, standalone, peak load shaving, remote applications, and combined heat and power. You know all these things. The only point which I want to stress here is the distributed generators are designed to work only with the grid. What I mean? If the grid is not available, these generators will be disconnected. Are you getting the point? You can have a 2 megawatt solar power plant.
Yes.
2 megawatt solar power plant which is connected to the grid and operating in parallel with the grid. Whenever there is a fault in the grid and grid fails, the inverter also taken out of service. Most of the grid tied inverter operates in that way. If you operate without any energy storage, most of the grid tied inverters operate in those way, which are present now in the market. Such inverters are called as grid following inverters. Okay? If the grid is there, inverter will take the grid voltage as the reference and it follows that and injects power into the grid. Grid following inverters. This is the point you should take it in your mind. There are so many problems when you have DGs in the grid, distributed generators in the grid. I am not going in depth of that. Just I want to list the problem. There may be a problem introduced by distributed resources to the protection system. So fault clearing may be an issue. There may be an issue in voltage regulation. There may be an issue due to islanding operation. And there may be some power quality problems. So all these things are tackled in the literature. You can go through it. And now we are moving into another concept from DG to microgrid. Normal DG to microgrid. What I stressed in the previous discussion, I said when I say DG, distributed generator, we are following the grid. If grid is not there, DG also will not work. We are following the grid. But there is no use, right? I want to utilize the renewable energy most of the time, whenever is available. And I say I can install a 2 megawatt solar power plant and connect to a 11 kilovolt distribution network. But I say if the network fails, distribution network fails, that particular feeder is taken out of service, or if there is a low voltage, the inverter also will stop its operation. So but energy is available, solar energy is available, but the inverter is not operated because the problem is in the grid. But slowly grid codes are getting established saying that during the fault, inverter should not be taken out of service. They should support the grid. Okay, of course they can support the grid, but time is given. For a very short duration, if the fault persists, the inverter of the DG should get connected with the grid and support the grid. If the fault is permanent, they can disconnect. But if that is the case, then still we are losing the advantage. That's why this new concept is introduced, DG to microgrid. Even the main grid fails, the DG should form a local grid. Even the main grid fails, the DG should form the main grid. A local grid. If there is a local grid, that is called as a microgrid. So what is microgrid? Microgrid is a cluster of loads and distributed resources serviced by the distribution grid. Network is same, but the main grid failed. A group of distributed resources can work together in a coordinated manner. I will come back to the word coordinated manner later. In a coordinated manner to supply a group of loads using the existing network. That is called as a microgrid. So a microgrid should be capable of operating in grid connected mode. Microgrid should be capable of operating in isolated or autonomous mode. If this capability is not there for the distributed resources available in the distribution network, then you cannot say it is a microgrid. So if you have only grid following inverters, you cannot call it as a microgrid because they cannot form a microgrid. So the inverters what we use should be capable of forming the grid forming nature. If you go through the articles based on power electronics, you will come to know about these two words, grid following inverters, grid forming inverters. And I say here a group of distributed sources. So not only one inverter, there will be multiple inverters fed by renewable sources. They should coordinate with each other. So one inverter should form the grid, other inverters should follow that. So who will form the grid locally when the main grid is not available? There should be a decision making, there should be a control involved in that, right? If that facility or the feature is available, then we can call it as a microgrid. It should work in an islanded mode. People say that, yeah, I have a inverter at my house, even the grid fails, it will operate. I am forming a microgrid. But it is a microgrid with only a single source. So actually, by definition, it is not a microgrid at all. It is a standby power supply. I think you can follow very well. If I have a solar battery inverter at my home and it is connected to grid, I can say it is a DG because it is operating with the grid, and whenever the grid fails, whenever the grid is there, if excess power is available at my home, I can inject into the grid if I am provided with net metering facility. I can call it as a distributed generation, but I cannot call that I have built a microgrid. I have a standby power supply for my house. That's all. If the grid fails, battery will supply my residential load through the inverter what is available. Right? It is operating in an islanded mode as well as in grid connected mode. But I have only one source. So it is not a microgrid. Microgrid means I should have cluster of loads and cluster of distributed resources. This is what a clear-cut definition of a microgrid. Most of the time we will carry away having an inverter, we are building a microgrid. No, it is not the case. Okay. Hope you understood the difference. And a microgrid can be formed in a single house. That means in a single customer, not with a single source. Again, I'm saying, please keep that in mind. Okay. I can form a microgrid at a residential building level or in a township level or in a distribution area level. Say this transformer, what is shown in this picture is a distribution transformer available at, not distribution transformer, I'm sorry, a transformer at the distribution substation. So this, the complete area, the large area, I don't get a cursor, wait a minute. Yeah, I take the laser pointer. Okay, I have shown with the dotted line, the outer dotted line. That area is the complete area supplied by the distribution system, distribution substation. So that complete area can be considered as a microgrid if you have so many active sources in the network. And you can even consider a single feeder, which is shown in this green color, can be considered as a microgrid. And even you can consider a group of customers or a single customer can be a microgrid. But they should have this capability. They should have multiple cluster of loads. Okay, even our house we have cluster of loads. We are not supplying a single load. But we should have cluster of generation, and then we should have a capability to operate with the grid and off the grid. So when you operate with the grid, actually the problem is very simple, because you see, you do a project with an inverter operating with the grid, parallel with the grid, you want to inject power. Students will be able to complete the project very quickly because it is simple. You have a reference, a strong grid is available. It just sends the grid voltage, you make your inverter to follow that. And only you need to concentrate on the power which is injected into the grid. According to your command, that should work. There are a lot of research papers available. You can read it and just we can establish. But when you ask the same student to operate 2 or 3 inverters together in parallel to form an islanded microgrid, then there is a problem, right? So there should be one inverter to form the grid and other inverters to follow that. They have to do power sharing among themselves. They have to maintain frequency in the local grid. They have to maintain voltage in the local grid. Then the problem becomes little complicated. Of course, a lot of research papers available even in this topic. We can study and understand the concepts and implement. So a microgrid means it should operate in an autonomous mode and a non-autonomous mode. I need not explain what is autonomous and what is non-autonomous. And non-autonomous mode, it is very easy because it is connected with the grid. Actually, I used to compare with the institutions. It's an analogy, so please don't take everything along with our technical operation. You consider an institute, an academic institute, which is attached with the university. Then the burden on the institute is very, very less. You have to follow the syllabus given by the university, teach, make the students to study. That's all. Your responsibility is that's all. If you complete the syllabus, you are happy. It is up to the student. He will face the examination. You need not worry about the conduct of examination. You need not worry about setting of the question paper. You need not worry about correction, publishing results, all those things. It is the headache of the university. It is a non-autonomous system. But when you go to the autonomous system, then it comes the responsibility of the particular institute. You have to define your syllabus, and the syllabus should be approved by the third party. You cannot teach on your own that I am autonomous, but there is a governing body. You have to get approval. So you have to conduct BOG and not Board of Studies, BOS, and all those things. You have to follow the systematic manner. Okay, you find the syllabus. Then after the syllabus is ready, you have to teach the syllabus properly. You have to set the question paper. Then the question paper has to be evaluated, and then the question students examination should be conducted by you. So you have to establish a controller of examination in your institute. It's additional responsibility of the institute. Then examination should be conducted. It should be corrected. You have to have a centralized evaluation center. Paper should be corrected, and result should be published. While publishing result, you will face a lot of issues. Student apply for reevaluation. So many issues are there in the autonomous. But many institutes go for autonomous thinking that, yeah, we can do it. It's a prestigious thing. But you want to, when you come to autonomous, the question comes quality. Till you are non-autonomous, we don't worry about the quality because quality is controlled by the university. When you become autonomous, then quality comes into picture. Whether you are operating the autonomous system with good quality or not. There where these checks are there. You have to get the approval of syllabus from BOS. You need to have a auditor, academic auditor for auditing the question paper, auditing your evaluation, right? So quality checks are there. Same thing I have to bring into the technical system also. When it becomes autonomous, I have to worry about the quality. When it is non-autonomous, voltage, frequency, everything is controlled by the main grid. When it becomes autonomous, responsibilities are increasing. So we need a good controller in a microgrid. Until I form a microgrid, I don't need any controller. But when I form a microgrid, I need a controller. Okay. So I'm showing a few pictures of the microgrid architecture. Okay, what you have to remember here is you need to have a grid following inverter and grid forming inverter, and we need to have multiple sources and multiple loads. The main thing what you need is a controller. Okay. And there are so many configurations. Anyway, I'm not discussing that. You can have a central inverter. You can have a string inverter system. You can have a multi-string inverter system. Okay. Operated at the DC side, and then we have a one inverter system, and it is fed to the loads. It is called as a multi-inverter system. We can have, but in addition to this inverter control, you need a separate controller to take care of this operation of this microgrid. Whether it is connected to grid, whether it is islanded, while islanding, how to dictate this inverter to and voltage. So you need a separate controller. So to establish this controller, we need the help of this smart grid. Why? We need to establish a communication among these sources, communication with the load, communication with this inverter. So we need a smart grid architecture. Again, please remember, this is not new. We are at the communicating with all the generating stations. The control center is communicating with all the substations, and signals are collected to the central control center, state level load dispatch center, regional level load dispatch center. But what kind of technology they establish? They establish a separate optical fiber cable communication. When we extend that to distribution network, will it be possible to establish an optical fiber cable network? Is it financially affordable? Or can I go with any other technology? Do I go for wired technology or wireless technology? Those discussion comes into picture. We have to properly choose. So one of the microgrid which is established in our laboratory, I'm showing the picture, where we used FPGA processors as the microgrid controller, which can sense the availability of grid and dictate the inverter to form the grid and coordinate with the sources and loads to maintain voltage and frequency in the islanded operation. How an energy management system works, I have to maintain a microgrid management system. According to the availability of source, I have to control the load. According to the requirement of the load, I have to control the sources. I have to control the power drawn from the sources. If there is any deficit, we have energy storage. From that, we have to feed the system. But we cannot completely utilize the energy storage, because we may lose complete energy which is stored. So the loads are classified in the system into critical and non-critical. If non-critical loads are there, then I have to make a decision whether to draw from the battery storage or not. If non-critical loads are there, even we can disconnect the critical load, we can reschedule, we can shed the load. But only critical loads are present. During that time, if energy deficiency is there from renewable, grid is also not there, I have to go with a battery bank. So all these decisions we have to take. And say now I have a grid and the grid fails. I have too much energy generation from renewable, but I don't have much load, and my energy storage is also full. What do I do with the energy generation? I can disconnect the energy source, or I can even dump the energy generation from renewable for some time. I can wait for the requirement of load. So I need to do in real time all these things. So that's why I said we need a controller in the microgrid, which is established with the help of FPGA. And even we can go with load forecasting here. Parallelly, we can forecast the load, and accordingly we can give an additional decision-making capability to this microgrid controller, whether to disconnect the source or not. Okay, that is an additional feature which we can include in the microgrid controller. So as I said, a microgrid can be formed at the residential building level, or a township level, or a distribution network level. And all the microgrids can be connected with the main grid, and they can operate in a grid following mode. If there is any problem in the grid, microgrids can isolate themselves. So you will have multiple microgrids in the given distribution network. Even two microgrids can coordinate with them, operate together if you have a proper controllers. This is what a microgrid in a distribution network. So this is another picture showing the statement what I have told now. A microgrid can be formed inside a house, a group of customers, they can feed power into the grid at the distribution level, and even if your generation is more, we can trade even in the wholesale electricity market. This introduces a concept called VPP, virtual power plant, right? VPP, virtual power plant. Virtual power plant is physically a group of microgrids. Over the microgrid, they have a business environment. They can directly deal with the wholesale market. That is virtual power plant. Technically, it is a multiple microgrids. Okay. So now from the microgrid, we will move it to still lower level. So I said the microgrid can be formed even at the residential building level. We can have multiple sources, the storage, and now we are talking about electric vehicles. So very soon we can dream that we will build a house with all these technologies. We will have in-house renewable power generation. We will own, every one of us will own an electric vehicle that will be plugged in. Of course, our grid also will become matured in usage of smart grid technologies, which we learned in the last 2 days. We will be provided with smart meters. We will be provided with advanced metering infrastructure. Okay, when you have a meter which allows you to communicate with the utility, both data communication and energy communication. If you have an additional power, we can inject into the grid if grid permits. That can be accounted and dealt when you prepare the electricity bill, when the utility prepares electricity bill for you. So there will be so many schemes introduced. Now in Tamil Nadu, we have net metering scheme for the residential consumers. It is not so beneficial. It is not so beneficial. Okay. We may have different schemes introduced by the grid once smart grid is established. You might have heard about time of use pricing, critical peak pricing, feed-in tariff, so many things. So every one of us will build a house with renewable integration, because to install renewable, there are so many schemes, as I said. Subsidies will be there. Not only in India, when these schemes were introduced across the globe, in order to familiarize, in order to popularize the renewable power generation, the governments of several nations, they introduced schemes. That's why the customers are behind that, right? Everyone started doing this. So finally, smart grid means it is energy generation from renewable sources in one hand, energy conservation and energy management in an efficient way by employing information and communication technology. This is the 2 point we have to carry in our mind when we talk about smart grid. And mostly it concentrates on distribution network, because the power generation from renewable is integrated in the distribution network, and energy management and energy conservation can be done at the distribution network, because there where customers are interconnected. So smart grid has been given a definition by Electricity Act 2003. If you look at the definition for smart grid, you will get plenty of definitions. European has defined, European organizations have defined. Department of Energy USA has defined. UK authority, they have defined. And Indian Electricity Act also giving a definition like this. It's a very definition. Grid means a network which uses information and communication technology. The first point, ICT should be employed for what? To gather the information and act intelligently in an automated manner to improve efficiency, reliability, economics, and sustainability of generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity as may be specified by the authority. Though the definition is more common to all the sectors, generation, transmission, and distribution, it is very well appropriate to the distribution network, because transmission we are very well ahead. We have to become sustainable and employing ICT in the distribution level. That's why most of the smart grid technologies deal with distribution network applications. So this is what the expected network establishment. We need to have a home area network in order to have a communication between the smart meter and all the electrical appliances. And smart meter will become a gateway to communicate with the external world. So we will be establishing an advanced meter structure with a WAN where smart meters can communicate and transport their data to a data concentrator. Then from the data concentrator, data will be taken to meter data management system, which will be located at the distribution management system office. This should be established. Hope. And now we are very well improved. We have our home area network established in each and every one of our house. You have mobile phone, put a hotspot. That indicates that we are establishing a home area network. Any device can connect to our mobile phone. And you buy your smart appliances. Most of the smart appliances, they provide app. Through that app from your mobile phone, you can control. But only thing, there is no standard established right now to connect all our appliances and control through our smart meter. And there is no standard available or schemes available to connect our smart meter with the distribution system management system, because it is not established. But slowly it is getting established. I think you know there are so many pilot projects going on in India. The first of its kind is Pondicherry. Okay, Pondicherry, there is a smart grid established. They have a smart grid control center. They control around 1,000 consumers in the Pondicherry city, and real-time data is collected. As I said, the distribution network of Pondicherry city is brought transparent from black box. If anybody gets opportunity, it is worth to visit Smart Grid Control Center at Pondicherry. Okay. Whatever is studied in theoretical manner is slowly established there. Every house has a smart meter. The control center can directly control the residential building through smart meter. They can connect, disconnect power. So the billing efficiency has improved. The engineer in charge was telling us billing efficiency improved. They could get real-time data and they could reconfigure the network in real time after establishing smart grid control center. So we will assume that this similar infrastructure will be established very soon everywhere, and smart meters will be there at each and every house, and we have to establish a home area network to talk with smart meter. Why should I talk with smart meter? When all these things are established, variable tariff schemes, and we will be having in-house power generations, and we will have interest to involve in demand side management. What is demand side management? You give empowerment to the customer. That is one motto of smart grid. Establish demand side management. Now we have only supply side management. Demand side management is there. Only one kind of demand side management, that is load shedding. If we are not able to meet the demands and we are unable to increase the generation, just shed the load. That is the one demand side management is done. It is not customer friendly. Right? We are punishing the customer because we are utility is unable to meet the demand. Because of that, customers are removed from the power supply. That should not be done. Customer empowerment should be there. So we have to go with demand response schemes. What is this demand response scheme? Demand response is lowering the consumption at specific times by the consumer based on the change in electricity price or request from the utility. So customer is somehow connected to the operation of the system. Customer will be given a request to reduce their consumption if utility faces any problem in meeting the demand. Instead of shedding the load for a particular area, we will give option to the customer. We want to give power supply to all the customers, but we are unable to do. Why don't you respond? You try to reduce your consumption. What is the benefit? Now choice is given to the customer. They can select the load which they want to switch off. That is called as demand response scheme. That even established in many countries. So when you want to establish a demand response scheme, you need a local energy manager at the house, because this cannot be done manually, right? Whenever the utility faces problem, they cannot come to an individual consumer and ask them to respond. Before that, grid may collapse. So they will go for the final requirement of load shedding. So it should be done automatically. So the communication or request from the grid operator will come to the smart meter. Smart meter will decide what kind of loads should be switched off if the particular consumer has opted for demand response. So there is an option given to the customer. Do you want to help the grid during the emergency situation? If I opt for that, I should get some benefit. That may be due through price or incentive. Okay. So in order to do this demand response in automated manner, we need a manager inside the house, which is called as home energy management or residential energy management system, which should act an intelligent way. Intelligent residential energy management system. Again, you will get multiple articles when you go through the literature on residential energy management system or home energy management system. One of such scheme was developed by our research group, and I'm showing the architecture of that here. Okay. What is this IREMS? It is an embedded processor which will be able to communicate with the smart meter available at the building, and it should be able to communicate with all the devices, electrical appliances, and we may have in-house power generation. It means I'm establishing a microgrid inside my house. So if there is no grid available, then this energy management system should dictate the inverters to form the grid, and we have to establish a small microgrid inside the house, and the loads should be supplied. If grid is available, okay, now I have to operate as grid following mode. That will be established, and now I have to decide whether I should take power from the grid or I should use my own generation. Then I have to look at the smart meter. Smart meter will tell me the information about the electricity price if it is a time varying price introduced by the operator. So the first requirement is from the operator. There should be an establishment of distribution management system. There should be a time varying price. Otherwise, there is no question of all these technologies, right? So when all these things are there, this energy management system can decide whether to use renewable power or purchase from grid or sell it to the grid. So you need an energy management system at house. So when I decide to sell it to the grid, then it is called as peer-to-grid energy transaction. I am becoming a power plant. I have a microgrid. I have energy. I can sell it to the grid. So it is called as grid paradigm. So when I inject power to the grid should pay money to me. That is called as feed-in tariff. Feed-in tariff. Okay. So right now we are moving towards this. But in the world, in many countries, they have already did this feed-in tariff based on schemes, and they are fed up with that because every consumer started installing renewable and everyone is started feeding power into the grid, and now the grid is unable to operate properly. Grid is facing when many consumers are injecting power into the grid. Say they started giving a limit on power injection limit. You search in Google, you will get an articles with power injection limit. And in some countries, they removed feed-in tariff scheme at all. You can't inject power into the grid. Even if you have excess, you have to manage. Because grid is facing a lot of difficulty. So one example is Queensland in Australia. You read this article, they say that we removed feed-in tariff scheme. See the growth already, many of the technologies were installed and removed. Feed-in tariff scheme was removed. But already all the houses are equipped with renewable. And they may have excess power at some time. And there is no feed-in tariff, I cannot inject into the grid. So peer-to-grid paradigm is diminishing. So some other technology should arise. That is the peer-to-peer energy transaction. So grid is not ready to accept my power. So what should I do with the excess generation? A new scheme introduced. Okay, if your neighbor is ready to take power from you, you can give it to him. So when I generate power by using my own renewable, I will be called as prosumer. Earlier I am only a consumer, now I am able to produce power, so I will become a prosumer. Even in the peer-to-grid paradigm, if I have in-house power generation, I am a prosumer. I can sell power to the grid through feed-in tariff scheme. But if there is, then I can enjoy the benefit of renewable power generation. Right? I get all the benefits. But there is my neighbor who is having only loads. He does not have any installation, renewable energy installation. Then he is purely a consumer. He will not enjoy the benefit of renewable because he is always purchasing power from the grid. Now, this peer-to-peer paradigm gives an opportunity to my neighbor who does not have any renewable installation, but he wants to enjoy the power from renewable. Enjoy means it is the price. If you generate power from renewable, the price will be less. Right? He wants to get electricity from the reduced price without any investment. Yes, that is possible in peer-to-peer. Because you have excess renewable power generation, the grid is not accepting to take, your neighbor is there to accept it. And he will accept your power only if you sell at a price less than grid price. Otherwise, he will take from grid. Right? So you are getting benefited for your excess power generation, which is not accepted by the grid. Now you are getting benefit by selling it to your customer, your neighbor. Your neighbor is getting benefit by purchasing from you at a less price than the grid price. So how do you do that? Will you lay a separate line between you and your neighbor? No, it is not possible. So you have to use the existing distribution network. You have to use the existing distribution network and do this operation. Again, I tell you, this is not new. Already we are doing in the wholesale market. Transmission network is open access. Any bulk power producer can inject power into that, and anybody can purchase from him. Only thing, they should make a power purchase agreement, PPA, which happens one day ahead. Right? In the wholesale market. Same thing should happen in the distribution network also. Again, in order to maintain the technical features, there is a system operator called POSOCO. Similarly, we should also, POSOCO is an Indian scenario. In global scenario, they are called as system operator or independent system operator or transmission system operator. So same architecture we have to bring in the distribution network also. We should have a distribution system operator. He may be a non-profit organization or profit organization. That depends. In the transmission level, it is a non-profit organization. And in the distribution level, according to the network, a DISCOM. Now, if I take Tamil Nadu, TANGEDCO operates the DISCO. They own the distribution network. If they want, they can offer the service free of cost. Anybody can use my network. Okay, you trade only the power. But if the DISCOM wants any benefit, they can avail or they can impose a wheeling charges and they can get the price for using their infrastructure. Okay. So here also we have to establish a market operator. The market operator is called as locality electricity trading system. Okay. So you look at this picture, you will get a clear-cut idea. I have a distribution transformer, which I started in my first slide. I have a radial distribution network, right? I have a radial distribution network and I have all the consumers fed by this. It is a radial distribution network. Now, some of my consumers are becoming prosumers. So it becomes an active distribution network. The prosumers are feeding power to the grid. It is a pure to grid paradigm. Now the grid says, I cannot accept any additional power if you inject. Then a new paradigm comes peer-to-peer. Okay, use the same network. You are becoming a single family. You trade power yourself and enjoy. Don't inject anything beyond this distribution transformer. Then suppose this complete network is becoming self-sustained. I won't draw any power from the main grid. So grid will face a lot of load reduction. Am I right? That should be informed to the main grid operator. Otherwise, they will face problem. So that responsibility will be taken care by the distribution system operator. He will coordinate with locality energy trading system. He will find out in a time of a day whether they are self-sustained or not, how much they will be drawing from the main grid, or how much even they can inject into the grid if it is permitted. That will be informed to the main grid. Then based on that, they can plan. So in real time, we have to have a system like our load dispatch center, regional load dispatch center, state load dispatch center. Similarly, we should have a system at the distribution level also, right? That is what we are establishing. We are moving in the smart grid. Okay, I will come to this peer-to-peer energy transaction. Technical part, we will assume that distribution system operator will take care. What does this let's do? The let's do let's do the trading process. Okay. And again, if you search peer-to-peer energy trading in Google, you will get plenty of research papers coming out. And one of our research group worked in this, establishing a market and developing a framework for this. So, as I said, we need a residential energy management system inside our house if you want to become a prosumer and communicate with the grid. And now you want to trade your power, so you need to enhance your energy management system. So we named it as Enhanced Intelligent Residential Energy Management System, which will include an additional module called trading module with the existing architecture. And we can now trade with our neighbors through LETS, Locality Electricity Trading System. I will very briefly tell that what Locality Electricity Trading System will do. It collects the information from individual prosumer and the consumers in a time duration basis, time slot basis. Again, we copy from wholesale market. If you look at our wholesale market, we have 15 minutes block. So 96 blocks energy is traded. Same thing we can bring it to local market also. So for every time block, every 15 minutes block, so 96 blocks, every participant, market participant should give their schedule. The schedule may be positive or negative. Positive means they want power from the market. Negative means they can inject power into the market. So this schedule will be prepared by every participant one day ahead, and it will be given to the LETS. LETS collects all this schedule and they will find out aggregate schedule. What is the total aggregated schedule of this area? It may be again positive or negative. Positive means they need power from grid. Negative means they will inject power into the grid. So this information will be communicated back to all the participants. In this particular slot, you have aggregated demand positive, aggregated demand negative. If you want to make it zero, you make it. Why you want to make it zero? You want to become a self-sustained microgrid. You can make it zero. That is the responsibility of the participants. They can alter their loads where load scheduling or demand response comes into picture. They can alter their load and they can revise their schedule and they can submit back. Again, I'm not telling anything new. That is happening in wholesale market. Okay. So this will happen for 2 or 3 iteration. There can be a constraint in terms of number of iterations or in terms of self-sustainability. Okay. We followed the self-sustainability during peak generation periods of renewable. If I say in that particular area, solar power generation is peak from say 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. During that bright sunshine hours, I want to make my local grid as a self-sustained microgrid. I don't want to take power from grid. I will communicate with all the participants. You schedule your loads within that time period, because I have a home energy management system which can do it automatically. So there is an optimization involved locally as well as globally. Okay. Individual house, there will be a optimization to reduce their price. As a microgrid level, there is an optimization to reduce, to enhance self-sustainability. Okay, that is done. Once it is done, iteration stops. Power schedule is finalized. Then price comes into picture. What price you are going to buy and what price you are going to sell. There is a pricing mechanism available. Okay. I am telling the sequence which I followed, which our group followed. There may be plenty of schemes followed differently. So now according to the power schedule, the prosumers and the consumers will be classified into two groups, exporters and importers, and they will be called for giving their bids, offer price and selling price and buying price. According to their quoted price, they will be arranged in descending order. Exporters will be arranged in descending order, and I'm sorry, exporters will be arranged in ascending order. The prosumer with low price will be given highest priority, and importers will be arranged in descending order. The consumer who is ready to buy with higher price will be given high priority, and then this exporter and importer will be matched and the price will be fixed. The pricing what is used here is an average pricing mechanism. We can go plenty of pricing mechanism available in the literature. Okay, what is used here is an average pricing mechanism, and the market price will be cleared, and then it will be communicated to all the participants, and the next day operation will follow this schedule and this price. Now there may be a question from your end. If there is any sudden change in the schedule, what will happen? That is what I assumed, that I have a distribution operator and grid is present. The grid has to support. But for that, even we can do a penalty approach for the consumers, and we can have an auxiliary providers even in the microgrid to take care of this sudden changes. That is also in concept available. Ancillary service providers. Okay. So what is the advantages of peer-to-peer? Wholesale price will come down because every microgrid is becoming self-sustained. Nobody is ready to buy from wholesale market, so electricity price will come down. And we are promoting carbon-free power generation. The affordable people as well as non-affordable people are utilizing renewable with the help of peer-to-peer paradigm. Good customer participation in the operation of the system, which is the first motto of smart grid. Energy bills are reduced. Distribution transformer burden is getting reduced. And all other advantages required by smart city will be obtained with the help of this peer-to-peer paradigm. Okay, and I want to show a few history before concluding this session. We may think that all these things are happening very recently, but when I read this article, I enjoyed this article. I ask every one of you to go through this article written by Professor Sweepy from MIT, USA. He wrote this article on Power System 2000 during 1978, before 43 years, right? I could see the year very exactly 43 years. I was born during 1978. He wrote the article that time itself, and now we are working on that. He wrote, we will have multi-level controls and home minis will be established, and real-time price will be determined by supply and demand, not only the person who is involved in supply. The demand also will decide the price. It happens now. Buying and selling will happen in real time. That is slowly happening. Hierarchical architecture for operating the system. National level we have load dispatch center. Regional level we have load dispatch center. State level we have load dispatch center. And we are moving towards city level load dispatch center, distribution system level management, and then home energy management system. It is getting realized. He wrote during 1978 itself. And to give an add-on information, peer-to-peer platform has been established in Australia first, and Power Ledger is the company who has established this energy transaction, market establishment. we should be very happy to note that our Indian system is also trying to establish a pilot project on peer-to-peer energy transaction. Maybe many of you know this. Just an add-on information I would like to give this. In December 2020, this pilot project was started in UP with the same company, Power Ledger, peer-to-peer energy trading platform for solar power consumers. So we are very close to this. Though we are very slow in implementing DSM, distribution management system, DMS, now we are in a war footing basis. We have to implement smart grid and peer-to-peer paradigm in Indian scenario. We have so many pilot projects running, so many smart meter projects are going in India across the country in many cities. So we will reach this peer-to-peer scenario very soon. We will have a lot of difficulties in this. We will face problems, but problems will be there in every technology. Then only the researchers like academicians can write paper and survive in the academic society, right? So I conclude at this point, and I hope all of you might have got some idea about what is microgrid and how a microgrid can be established, and what is peer-to-grid and what is and what is the recent advancements in this. Before concluding my session, I would like to thank and acknowledge all my research scholars who did a lot of work in this area so that I could deliver knowledge to all of you. Thank you for your attention. If you have any queries, we can discuss.
So there is a couple of questions in the chat box.
Jiv sir, maybe they can ask directly, so that would be better rather than me asking from the chat box. So thank you very much, Selvan sir. It was a very clear and vivid explanation. I don't think we will get such an easier and clear explanation from about this microgrid and peer-to-peer energy trading from anywhere else. So thank you very much for that session. So now it's time for a discussion. So I can see some questions in the chat box, so they can unmute themselves and ask the questions directly to Selvan sir.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. I have one small query that this peer-to-peer scheduling a day ahead when we are doing. So in that case, how is the uncertainty of renewables are taken care?
Yeah, a very good question. See, uncertainty is always a problem. Even in the wholesale market, now they are facing that. When large-scale grid-connected renewable energy power plants are involved in power trading, uncertainty becomes a serious issue. Today they may trade that, stating that we can inject power, but during the real-time operation they may not be able to do. So grid has to manage that situation. So for that they introduce a market called spot market, which will be taken care by the system operator itself. So in the spot market you can even trade within 2-3 slots before. I mean, say 12 o'clock the grid needs power, 11 o'clock they can open the market and people can trade. So already operating steam turbine generators, if they are able to increase the generation, they can quote in the spot market. They can feed power into the grid. That's how it is managed. But still uncertainty is a problem. I accept your question. For that, we need to have a very accurate forecasting. Very accurate forecasting, which many of us are working on that. Yesterday we had a meeting with POSOCO engineers. They themselves, they developed load forecasting as well as solar energy forecasting module with the help of neural network, and they said there is an issue, and they work with IIT Madras to fine tune the forecasting module, and we we conveyed our interest also to work on that. Okay, so first thing is we need a very accurate we can tackle it. Uncertainty should be forecasted. It is a very challenging task. Then even beyond that, if there is any uncertainty, we should have reserve capacity. Okay, certain reserve. Like we maintain the wholesale grid, main grid, we are talking about reserve capacity. Hot reserve, spinning reserve, you might have studied. And now we moved from hot reserve, spinning reserve to purchased reserve, because our grid is completely interconnected. Okay, we reserve from other state that I may need this power at any point of time. You make yourself ready to supply me. Reserve. For that, payment will be done, fixed price. If I draw energy during the real time, I will pay for energy. Otherwise, only for the I have to pay. Similar kind of concepts should be introduced even in the microgrid level. For that, also, literature, what they are saying, the new introduction, vehicles are there, right? Electric vehicles, they are trying to use that for ancillary. This is called as ancillary services. For grid supporting ancillary services, they are trying to use the electric vehicles which are idle. Most of the time the vehicles are idle and it has energy. So if the vehicle owners are interested to support the grid, they can make an agreement and they can feed, because it is a battery which can supply energy very quickly, right? So it can feed power into the grid as soon as the grid needs. It is an ancillary service. But again, telling is very easy. To establish such technology in a technical manner as well as with the financial, it is a tedious task. But you might have heard about the word vehicle to grid technology, right? Vehicle to grid. Mainly the vehicle to grid is used for providing ancillary services in the distribution system in order to meet the uncertainty.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any other questions?
There is one more question in the chat box from GB Matthew.
So it's from Jagdish Chandra Pandey. I reposted.
Thank you. Jagadish Chandra Pandey, yes. His question is on peer-to-peer. Should there not a danger of leakage of privacy as information being also exchanged during this transmission? Yes, of course it is there. Security threat is there. Data security is there. See, I always think in a positive direction. It is there. Mobile banking security threat is there, right? But still we are all familiar with mobile banking. We are all doing in our day-to-day. There are people without using Google. Everything they use Google Pay, right? Even they purchase, particularly our student community, they go take one cup of tea and they are paying in GPay. Right? It is there. Banking sector also supporting us by providing lot of security measures, right? First time OTP. I feel OTP itself is a good protection with respect to this financial transaction. Unless otherwise you unknowingly disclose your OTP, nobody else can interfere in your transaction. But many people, we are all doing that, right? So similarly, here also data privacy problem will be there, and we have to go with good security measures. And likewise, we have to choose the network also. Inside home, mostly Wi-Fi is used in established home area network. But when you go to WAN, they don't use Wi-Fi. They go for licensed WAN, where protection, data protection is more. Okay, so it gives an opportunity to research on security aspects.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions for discussion? Yeah, I have one or two questions. So one question is, so the fact that we are introducing this deregulation in maybe in wholesale market is to improve the competition so that we can get better power, I mean, with better power quality, and maybe we can reduce the price as well. But should we have competition among the power markets as well? For example, in case of Indian wholesale power market, we have IEX as well as PXIL. So I hope you know IEX
Yes.
and PXIL. So there are actually two market operators. So is it advisable to have more than one market operators in wholesale market as well as in peer-to-peer energy trading? We have market operators. So is it good to have a single market operator or a multiple market operator? So hope my question is clear.
Yeah. Your question is very clear, but I don't think so. As a technical person, I don't think so. Competition is required between market operators. Okay. We may need multiple market operators in order to distribute the functionality geographically. There need not be a competition between market operators. I think so. Maybe we have to discuss with financial people who can give a better idea. Do we need competition between market operators?
Okay, fine. One more question. So while in the stages of peer-to-peer energy trading, in your model you have taken the quantities required from each prosumers. Why don't you ask for price also at the initial stage itself? Why are you asking for price at a later stage after computing the aggregate? Is there any specific reason for that?
No, Mr. Matthew. Actually, we can do in three different ways. Which is established right now in the pilot project of Indian Smart Grid Forum is you just trade only the and the price will be fixed. That is one way. Price is fixed. You can trade only grid. That is one way. So next we moved to the next step. That is you first trade the energy, then fix the price. That is what we followed. That is average pricing. As you said, other schemes are also available. You can quote the price as well as the quantity simultaneously, and a single price can be arrived, which is called as a market clearing price. Okay, that also we worked. I did not include in this presentation, which is called as double auction mechanism. Okay, where you can quote the quantity as well as the price, but final price will be a single one, which should be followed by uniform pricing mechanism, which will be followed by all the participants. But in this case, in the case what I discussed, the benefit will be given to the consumers. The final price will not be a single price. Final price will be fixed between two parties. Okay, because I am matching one prosumer with one customer. So they will fix the price will be fixed based on their quote, only their quote. Others' quote will not influence in their price.
Okay, so we need to find an exact match between a buyer and a seller in that case.
That is based on no need. See, if I have 10 kilowatt power to sell, the first buyer is needing only 5 kilowatt. I can sell 5 kilowatt to him. Next 5 kilowatt, I can move it to the next seller. That's why it is arranged. The sellers are arranged in ascending order and buyers are arranged in descending order.
Okay.
So finally, some seller may not have an opportunity to sell according to their price. So next time they will reduce their price.
Oh, okay. Got it. So, any other questions? Anyone? Fine. So, if there are no more questions, we'll stop this session and we'll move to the next session. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah, Jagadish Chandra Pandey would like to comment something.
Electricity is general need of everyone, right from poor to rich. That's not so case with mobile banking. Can't compare with mobile banking with smart grid. Can we? Altogether different thing about it. Thank you for your input. My thinking is just a comparison. It's an analogy I have taken. My point is, yes, there will be a security issue. We have to work for a better technology to secure smart grid. I'm not asking to exactly copy from mobile bank.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Sir, one more query from the same person about that particular. But sir, mobile banking is not so resource constrained as smart meter like that. I will repost it, sir.
Yeah. But sir, mobile banking is not so resource constrained as smart meter. Smart 35,000. Can we avoid such costly and smart meter? You are talking about smartphone in 2021. Do you know what is the cost of mobile phone during 2000? The cost of each call in mobile phone during 2000? Every incoming is charged. I don't know the age of you, but I say when I purchased my mobile phone, I did not use the mobile phone because incoming is also charged. So I never ask my friends to call. But now inside the home, to call our children, to call our wife, we are making a mobile call, right? That is how technology helps. We have to think positively that the cost of all these technologies will come down. Whenever there is a competition in the infrastructure developers also. The cost of smart meter is now.
Okay. Thank you, Selvan sir. Yeah.
Yes, Matthew.
So
Yeah, it is time.
we need to move to the next session. So thank you very much, Selvan sir, for the very clear explanation of microgrids and peer-to-peer. I hope many will be looking into that area and will see the research that is happening in that area. Yes, we will be more motivated because it is slowly implementing in our country. That's great to see as well. So thank you, Selvan sir, for the session. So the next session we'll have at 11:15. So the link will be the same, so you can join by that time. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
So the next session will be at 11:15. The feedback form for this particular session is there in the chat box.
നമ്മളൊന്നും ചെയ്തില്ലല്ലോ. Sorry.